Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 8. We are almost halfway through, which seems incredible, but we're here. I haven't had a chance to read this past week stuff, so I hope to get some time this week to be able to do that. This weekend was chock full of things, and I wasn't able to get to grading. So if you do have issues, if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm available by email. Uh, I feel like this is the proper time to introduce some ways. If you've been in this class, and we haven't been through all the material yet, we haven't been through the whole book. If you've been in this class and you felt challenged, you felt like, your own, I don't know how much I actually align with what's being said. I don't know how much I actually believe what's being said. If that's where you're at, we're hearing from a different voice. And I've leaned into the textbook intentionally the past few weeks because the textbook is a voice written from marginalized people. That is not the dominant voice that we get in commercialism. It's not the dominant voice we get in our TVs. I would argue it's not the dominant voice that we get when we pick up our phones. We tend to be here in the United States, tend to be flooded by messages of that reflect the majority culture. They uh, they don't necessarily reflect the views from the margins. And you think about the margins. Well, here's a page, and here's some margins on the outside, right? So you don't necessarily hear that. While I'm thinking about that, um, here it is. So there's a couple of there's a couple of titles that have this in the title of like a people's history. So here's one. This wasn't something I studied in seminary, but it's not one of those texts, but it says a people's history of Christianity. So when you see a title like that, a people's history, it's really trying to look at what's the majority of people as far as that aren't in power. Okay. What are views from the margins? What are views like there's some books over there like decolonializing biblical studies, those kind of things. It's looking at culture from an alternative lens, a lens that's not generally reflected in mainstream stuff because we're used to those voices. And so when you hear voices from the edge, when you hear voices like I can speak from my own experiences as a white male. When I encountered different voices, it can be threatening. It can be, what is this? Who even gave them the authority to say that? And it's it's the word authority is the key word in play here because your textbook is written from a place of people that have studied, that have, this is their passion, this is what they've devoted their lives to, being experts in this field. And when you hear voices that promote social justice from like I'll take the ACA, like the American Counseling Association. Here is, and again, think of systemically. Think about, Keegan's all these different systems impacting each other. Here's something that's not typically been a system that's been speaking up for voices that are marginalized, speaking up for people that are, gay, lesbian, transgender, um, speaking up for um, this idea of um, promoting social justice economically. There's a lot of different levels of things going on here. So when you hear that voice for the dominant culture, it's threatening and also sounds weird. It's almost like hitting the black keys on a piano. They sound a little bit different than what you typically hear And so it can be what I'm meant by all these metaphors, by all these things that I'm speaking to here, by trying to get you to think systemically, is to go back to what we talked about earlier. If you've been challenged, I hope you have been, because that's the point of this class, is to challenge you now to where if you go out, you don't cause harm to clients. What we're talking about this week specifically goes to if you have some prejudice, if you have deeply seated, if you have, in your mind, you have like these noble thoughts. Well, I can't promote that type of thing, right? And you're talking about a person's identity. That's problematic. I spoke to a professor here a few years ago, and they were speaking, and they said, "Well, I want my own initial. People have all these their initials now. I want one, and I'm gonna call it O for old, because I'm the most marginalized. People don't get hired. People, they're economically disadvantaged or this and that." And so my thought process back to that, I took a minute to listen to him, and I usually take like stuff like that home and ruminate. And for some reason, the words came to me, and I said, "Yeah, but people don't doubt you're existent as an old person. They don't think that just because of your identity that you're somehow evil, that you some that they don't question your soul based on you being an old person. They don't automatically assume that you are that you're misled, that you're a threat to society by your existence." So I said these things. I can't believe they actually came like to me quickly, but I had studied this. This is something what we talk about this week. I would consider myself I don't know of anybody here that studied this more. I don't know of other people, possibly the researchers I cited, but I've spent hundreds of hours researching the topic that we're going to talk about this week. And it is a way for you to work through your prejudices. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. So I'm going to pause it there because I just gave you a lot to chew on as an introduction to this week. I'm also going to try to use AI to produce a transcript. I don't think I'm going to try to speak from my own understanding of things. So I'll try to produce a transcript of this as the lecture notes. So hold tight.